When I give up my data about whether I like the color blue or color red to Google, I'm not losing my freedom. Sure, I'm giving up some information. But when you start to encroach in the space of money, right? And when you give up that freedom, I think that has a lot of fundamental impact. Then you are basically placing your entire life in the hands of the government and you're trusting that that government will safeguard it.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Money Shot. ये एक शो है जहाँ हम क्रिप्टो करेंसीज और डिजिटल मनी डिस्कस करते हैं. We have few friends, we get on a video call, ask each other questions, discuss it, argue about it, and in the process learn more about cryptocurrencies and others. So right now I'm on a video call with my friends Vishesh and Parikshit. In this episode I want to ask Vishesh about the anonymity of Bitcoin. So many people were so kicked about Bitcoin, are so kicked about Bitcoin because it's anonymous. Your transactions are anonymous. But is it really anonymous? How anonymous is it? So can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the history of Bitcoin, half the time people talk about Bitcoin in a bad light. They talk about, the Silk Road days when Bitcoin was used in the dark web for illegal activities and crime, to fund crime, etc., because it was perceived as being anonymous. But the fact is, Bitcoin is far from anonymous. It's actually somewhere in the middle, but let me explain, right? So we've talked before, Bitcoin is basically the other name for Bitcoin is built on blockchain technology. Now, blockchain technology is also known as distributed ledger technology. Distributed ledger means that this accounts of the transactions that are performed on this blockchain or in this network are published on a ledger that is distributed and available to everyone. It's public knowledge. It's not like a bank's account or bank's database where I don't have access to my bank's database where I can see everybody's transactions. In the case of Bitcoin, you actually can. So it is not anonymous in that sense. What sort of creates that mirage of anonymity is that my name is not in that ledger, right? Like my name is not associated with the wallets between which that transaction is occurring. So if money is moving from wallet A to wallet B, you will see money moved from A to B, at what time it moved, how much moved. But the blockchain is not going to tell you that wallet A belongs to Vishesh and wallet B belongs to Davis. So that creates a sense of pseudonymity, right? Not exactly anonymity. There is transparency, but names are not there. Now, there are regulations that are in, different countries are looking at the regulations differently. They're trying to introduce KYC already on, leading exchanges in the world where you go buy your Bitcoin or any other crypto. You need to do KYC. You need to, so that they can see, governments can track what you're doing, what kind of, investments you're doing, what buying and selling activity you're doing on the exchange, because they can associate a wallet address to you. That does not mean that the Bitcoin blockchain will start now showing my name against wallet A belongs to Vishesh. But if the government wants to go ask the exchange, we just saw a transaction of wallet A to wallet B, can you tell us who wallet A belongs to and who wallet B belongs to? They can get it from the exchange.
Okay, in fact, that kind of answers my next question. My next question was, is anonymity even a good thing? Because then how do you curb its misuse, Bitcoin's misuse in funding crime and other things? But you're saying if the transaction can be tracked and if a government can eventually find out who did that transaction to whom by contacting the exchanges, then I think that solves the problem, right?
Well, it kind of does. That's why governments are regulating these exchanges. That's largely been the reason why governments want to regulate these exchanges. But I say it kind of does because, well, not all Bitcoin is held in exchanges, right? It is possible that my Bitcoins were held in a hardware wallet. And that hardware wallet is in my possession. It's not sitting on any exchange. I did not perform any KYC. You might also have a hardware wallet with the same, principle. You don't have any KYC done on your hardware wallet and it is in your possession. Now, if I move money from my hardware wallet to your hardware wallet, it's fairly anonymous in that sense, right? Yes, people can see it move from wallet A to wallet B, but the government can't go and ask anybody because there is no central authority for Bitcoin.
All right. So you're saying there are still ways to keep it completely anonymous, right? Transactions like this. And while governments are trying to regulate it, as they regulate it, there will be KYC at all touch points of Bitcoin, right? Whether it's the exchange, software wallet, or the hardware wallet also. And when that happens, I'm not getting into the tax part, okay? I'm just saying they do a KYC, okay? How much do the Bitcoin holders or the Bitcoin community, how much do they value anonymity? Is it one of the main reasons they buy Bitcoin, the anonymity or the pseudonymity? Because you think that will cause a lot of people to sell Bitcoin because now they'll be like, now governments know where my money is, how much money I have, where I've kept it, and all of that. Do you think that it might cause a dip?
Don't consider this as investment advice. I do believe that this is something that is important to the current Bitcoin community, and they don't look at it as anonymity is what is important to us, but they call it privacy. And I think privacy is a more softer term and a more positive connotation for people to sort of understand, hey, privacy, yes, privacy matters to me as well. We are seeing now the impact of what lack of privacy can do to us, the kind of data that is being collected about our lives by tech giants like Google and Facebook. And some people are okay with that. Until a few years ago, I was actually very happy about it, not just okay with it. I was happy about it because I felt like they introduce efficiency in my life and they are able to offer me services that I like, and it makes my life easy. But I wasn't realizing what I'm losing in the bargain, that privacy. And now privacy to me personally, and it's an individual choice, matters a lot more than it did before. And so depending on where you lie on that spectrum, you might still be very happy to share your data because it introduces efficiency in your life. But if privacy is something that matters to you, like it does to the majority of the Bitcoin community, then you may see strict KYC regulations as something of a headwind in Bitcoin's journey. I do feel like, yeah, it's possible. I can't predict the future, but it's possible that it might cause a mini sell-off. Some people might see this as bad news. I don't think that at this point it is a big enough event to kill Bitcoin or will cause the Bitcoin story to be over. But it sort of chips away a little bit at one of the key features of Bitcoin. At the end of the day, we have to think about it as you're giving up your freedom. When I give up my data about whether I like the color blue or color red to Google, I'm not losing my freedom. Sure, I'm giving up some information. But when you start to encroach in the space of money, right? Money is basically what our existence and lives revolve around. And when you give up that freedom, I think that has a lot of fundamental impact. Then you are basically placing your entire life in the hands of the government, and you're trusting that that government will safeguard it. You are safeguard it and not use it for bad means. Sure, I live in the US, you live in India, and we have pretty stable governments. But what about countries like Venezuela, countries like Turkey, Egypt, or Syria right now? I mean, these countries are having political disturbance and they've lost trust and faith in their governments. So if their governments were in control, imagine what they can do. The next thing these governments can do is they can decide whether your money can even be spent or not. They can go ban your address and say, okay, I want to punish this community, right? I'm not putting ideas in people's heads, but if they have a particular community who is rebelling against the government, they can just identify them because they have everybody's funds, wallets, and they can, seize their wallets and say, okay, these wallets will not be allowed to transact with any other wallet. So that you're giving up your fundamental freedom. So when it comes to money, think of it like cash, right? Bitcoin is kind of like cash, or crypto is kind of like cash. When I give you cash, nobody needs to know it. It's almost an anonymous transaction. Just you and I know it. I hand over cash to you in your hand. Nobody knows it. It doesn't get recorded in a bank. It doesn't get recorded in any public ledger. So it's kind of like that. And you're giving away that right to even use cash.
Slightly going off topic because off topic from the whole anonymity thing, but I'm saying down the line, government is going to try and bring taxation into it. Let's assume that some governments are going to try that. And for governments to start taxing your Bitcoin gains or your crypto holdings, it's such not just Bitcoin, the anonymity will have to go. So I personally don't see it as a feature that is as nailed on as other features, like it will be decentralized or limited supply and other good things about Bitcoin. But I mean, taxation is going to come. We all believe that. Right now, not enough people are making money off it, so it's not there, but eventually it's going to come. And we live in a country where government provides the services, so we have to pay tax on our capital gains. That's how it has been for so many years. I mean, you can debate whether the government is using your tax money properly or not. That's a separate discussion and out of scope of this particular channel, this particular YouTube or podcast channel. But end of the day, we have to pay taxes. And for taxes, if we have to pay taxes, the anonymity has to go.
I agree. I mean, if that's what the governments want to do, they will probably introduce KYC at all points. But this is what I think it'll end up at. There will be a strong community of people who don't want to give it up. And if they have their Bitcoin in hardware wallets, there are thousands or probably million people who already have their Bitcoin in a hardware wallet right now. The government can't go back in history and ask. So there is already a lot of Bitcoin that is sitting in anonymous hardware wallets. They can introduce, starting from today, every transaction will need to be KYC, but whatever is sitting from the past can continue to be sitting. So then we kind of creating two parallel worlds. One in which there is Bitcoin that operates from one anonymous wallet to another anonymous wallet. And then there is another world in which all the Bitcoin wallets have been KYC'd. Anything new after such regulation gets introduced is KYC'd. And if the government is interested in collecting taxes, they're basically interested in collecting KYC information for fiat on-ramps and off-ramps. That's basically points at which you can convert your fiat into crypto, and point at which you can convert crypto by selling it and converting it back to fiat. Those are the points where you're making capital gains and you are collecting taxes on those gains.
Let us be clear कि हम आपको क्रिप्टो करेंसीज में इन्वेस्ट करने को नहीं कह रहे हैं. हम बस इंफॉर्मेशन और हमारी ओपिनियन शेयर कर रहे हैं. अगर आपको क्रिप्टो करेंसीज में इन्वेस्ट करना है तो खुद से रिसर्च कीजिए और फिर इन्वेस्ट करिए. अगर आप हमें YouTube पर देख रहे हैं तो लेट मी टेल यू दैट वी आर ऑल्सो अवेलेबल ऑन पॉडकास्ट प्लेटफॉर्म्स लाइक Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Gaana and more. Link is there in the description.